It's a bright and beautiful Tuesday, and we're bright up and early. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. It's good to be here. Hello guys, how you doing?
We're trying. Welcome back. And welcome to the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
Oh, there's a backstory to all of this. Good morning. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning. The Hamatan is, it keeps coming back and forth.
I'm not sure what the Hamatan is doing.
You know, right?
And some people are not generous with their lip balm, but it's okay.
They sell it in the market.
Go get yours now.
My 12, mile 2. If you live in Lagos, by the way.
And it just brings us to that point.
Yeah.
Hamatan comes with its peculiarity.
Okay.
If it's winter in other climes, it also comes with its peculiarity, right? Warm clothing, the air is not as friendly, the environment is not as friendly, but our kind of Hamatan is quite tricky, right? You need more layers of lubrication on your skin, and some people forget, right? And I'm not even targeting anybody this morning, but am I safe to go on or should I stop?
Continue.
Okay, so tips to survive Hamatan, okay? Try to carry a lip balm. If you're a female, you can do lip gloss, right? But men, it's better to just stay with balm, okay? So it won't look like a fried plantain on your lips. But it's good to lubricate your lips because, our lips get chapped. It's a very harsh weather. So get your lip balm. You could get your petroleum jelly. It could be the one you use at home. Put in a little container, carry it around. I think it really helps so your mouth or your lips are not all charred and then you start seeing sores on them. Bukala, what's the other thing to do during Hamatan?
For ladies, put one in the bag you take to work and another in the bag you take to church, especially if you have a tendency of changing bags. And, in addition to that, whether it's Hamatan or not, get a new toothbrush, the one that has stronger bristles. After brushing, there's a different feel to how clean your teeth feels. But what else are we tracking apart from
Hey, you forgot to say, put it also in the car. You could also put it in the car as well.
Except that because of the heat, it melts.
Okay.
It depends on where in the car.
Right. So just put in the
and the kind of car. There are cars and there are motor. If you're using motor, it's not advisable. So if you're using car.
So what else are we tracking? President Tinubu is offering free bus services home for those who are traveling during the season. But unfortunately, home is just an hour away, and
for some people, right?
For some people, and it's only Jeffrey that would benefit from this if he were traveling.
No, I don't travel by road.
You don't travel by road.
Yeah, for those long distance.
For the sake of sightseeing.
Just have to rub that in.
For the sake of sightseeing.
I really don't like traveling by road.
Okay.
So you want the free service to waste?
No. For those who need it, they definitely would use it. Except there's no flight.
Taxpayers' money. Is our money.
I understand. Except there's no flight to that route because you don't have a choice. But if there's flights, by the grace of God, we'll fly.
But Kari, how do we benefit from this service for those of us whose home is just, home country is just
use your car, Bukola.
How about the people in the home come over? By that free service, come over.
Okay, I was just exploring ways by which we could benefit from it. And something else that was trending over the weekend that we cannot ignore is the Conservative Party leader of the UK speaking again about Nigeria.
We spoke about it yesterday.
We're supposed to ignore it, particularly because it just seems like she's baiting Nigeria now. She's seeing the attention that she's getting, and sometimes the response to the questions she gives, she hasn't been asked anything about Nigeria, but she just picks up on Nigeria. It's beginning to look more like a deliberate attempt to stoke ethnic tensions, divisions in Nigeria, and some of those comments have a big tendency to inflame passions, things that we're all at home trying to control, such that Nigerians can view themselves more as Nigerians than being from, a particular part of the country. And so it behoves on the Nigerian government to speak yet again. The vice president had spoken last week about this, but, the government should speak yet again about the need to rein in on the indisciplined comments coming from the Conservative Party leader of the UK. And, some of the things that she has said, if she were truly a Yoruba person, as she's claiming to identify with, she would know certain certain things, like you don't throw stones. These are the simple things that should be identified with anyone who is truly an Omoluabi. It's just important to put that across this morning.
Since you brought the Omoluabi, I can take it to Kayode, but this is my position with Kemi, and I'll maintain it. Kemi is a Nigerian politician, UK branch. It's as simple as it is. She understands her base. She knows how to speak to her base. There are merit in the things she says, but Nigerians are not just comfortable that it's coming from her. And every opportunity she has at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, you have to look at where she's trying to go to. So Nigerians are not comfortable, nobody will be comfortable for always being dragged into a conversation.
Jeffrey, we've never shied away, particularly on this platform, from talking about the challenges at home. So, put it in proper context. Yeah. Just yesterday, the popular pastor was speaking on our own sister program, and he said there are knife attacks in the UK. I understand. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you that Kemi, first and foremost, is a politician, so she doesn't mind what I call roving from. It shows the kind of politician that she would be if she were a politician at home.
My biggest
from roving from fearless to foolhardy.
Of the parochial sentiments of the people back home.
My
just
biggest
to advance,
issue about this.
Political consciousness.
Yeah, my biggest issue about this is I bought a bag of rice yesterday, and it was over 90,000.
A bigger fish to fry, right?
Bigger rice to cook, right? Here. So I know there's a lot of back and forth, but Nigerians have moved on. Come on, we have issues to fix. We'll fix it. But hey, no, it is something that's for short grain. Yeah. Long grain is 100 and something thousand naira.
Yes, but food inflation is high, and it's even the one that the MBS is giving us. This is to get you guys off that conversation, right?
I understand. Let me just say this: if she were truly a Yoruba person, she would know that Ajole Dabile.
Come on, there are millions of Yoruba people doing great stuff. Ademola
in the
Lookman.
UK that should interpret that to Kemi Baylor.
Ademola Lookman, for example,
as I say,
got
guys,
the CAF award yesterday. So,
this.
I think we should talk about the great stuff like what we have on the show.
We can debate this from now to tomorrow. Kemi is just being a politician. There's nothing beyond that.
Simple as that.
As simple as that. So there are enough Nigerians replying her, so I don't even need to reply. When she became the leader of the Conservative Party, I've looked at her, I've x-rayed her, I've tried to understand we're proud of what she's achieved, but sometimes Kemi doesn't know when she moves from fearless to foolhardy. It's fine, it's politics.
0.75 liters of vegetable oil, guys. Do you know how much it is?
How much? 16,000 naira.
Okay.
What do we have on the show this morning,
guys?
That's
a big problem. Today is today. We have a lot of issues to deal with. Bukola, what do you have on the program?
Well, we'll be looking at a very important topic, diversifying the budget funding. We're looking at the potential of non-oil sources. This is important because with the volatility of oil prices and its impact on, the budget, experts will be giving us essential tips about fiscal sustainability, and they'll be joining us to shed more light on non-oil revenue streams and leveraging capital market strategies that can provide more stable and innovative financing solutions.
That would not be all. Our boy and girl shone big last night. You know what I'm talking about. Ademola Lookman. Nadozie shine. This gentleman and lady made us proud yesterday. They are Africa's finest as far as football is concerned. One a goalkeeper, one the entire footballers put together on the continent. Ademola Lookman is our guy at the moment. Of course, following the footsteps of Victor Osimhen. We'll discuss all of this. And of course, the Super Falcons, the ladies, also brought us that Team of the Year at the CAF Awards last night.
Absolutely. But hey, it's a season for gifts. We've talked about rice and vegetable oil, but we know that gift shopping these days isn't easy, which is why we're going to be exploring tips for finding thoughtful gifts without overspending, and gift ideas from Lagos markets, local artisans, and across board really. So if you're shopping on a budget, we have you covered. If you want to break the bank, hey, we have you covered as well.
And that's not all. Something is also big on social media, particularly in the last couple of days. It's Femi Adebayo's 7 Doors. It's the hot topic in Netflix Nollywood. He will be joining us alongside his co-star to provide more insight on this project.
Okay, so I haven't seen the movie. For those of you who have seen it, I've just seen excerpts of this movie, but we're going to talk about it.
You know what's funny about that?
Yeah.
He had announced it when he appeared on the morning brief.
Yes. The very first.
Yeah.
So we're going to give you that clip and then link it to it. It's actually beautiful.
It was one of our
full
best
circle.
Full circle, right?
It was one of our very first guests on the very first day that we launched the morning brief, and we took a long time to talk to him.
Talked about this.
And we talked about this movie. So hey, we've tracked him, and he's going to be back here, hopefully. So let's have a conversation.
So besides all these big issues, what are your thoughts to them? We'll be reviewing them, but that will be after we take top stories in just a moment. Don't forget, you can also keep the conversation going. Hashtag CTV Morning Brief on all platforms, but also on X, where we extract those very important views of yours. So keep them coming. Start typing already in preparation for that review. After this time out, it'll be time to take top stories. So stay with your perfect morning starter right here on Channels Television. Welcome back, and top on the brief this morning. The Federal Executive Council has given final approval to the 2025 budget to be presented by President Bola Tinubu. Speaking to State House correspondents shortly after the FEC meeting chaired by President Tinubu at the Presidential Villa, the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Atiku Bagudu, said the total 2025 expenditure is projected at 47 trillion naira, 960 billion naira, which is an increase of 36.8% from the 2024 estimate.
And very shocking scenes coming courtesy of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, as it announced a landmark arrest of a total of 792 suspects for offenses bordering on cryptocurrency investment fraud and romance scam. The Director of Public Affairs of the EFCC, Mr. Wilson Owujaren, who briefed journalists at the Commission's office, said the suspects were apprehended in a surprise operation at the alleged hideout, a 7-story building known as Big Leaf Building in the Victoria Island area of Lagos.
And in business news, the National Bureau of Statistics says Nigeria's headline inflation rate rose to 34.60% in November 2024 from 33.88% in October 2024. The November inflation rate showed an increase of 0.72 percentage points compared with the October 2024 inflation rate. And that's according to MBS's latest Consumer Price Index report, which measures the rate of change in prices of goods and services.
Well, outside the country, rescuers face a race against time to reach survivors after devastating cyclone tore through French Indian Ocean territory of Mayotte, destroying homes across the islands with hundreds feared dead. The cyclone has left health services in tatters, with the hospital extremely damaged and health centers knocked out of operation, as according to the health minister.
And in sports, cheery news as Ademola Lookman crowned 2024 CAF Player of the Year. And Ademola has been crowned, yes, at the historic event that confirms his status as one of the best players in the world in the current calendar year. His win means the award remains in Nigeria after teammate Victor Osimhen won it last year. Meanwhile, Super Falcons Chiamaka Nnadozie has once again been crowned the CAF Women's Goalkeeper of the Year for 2024, winning the award for the second successive year after her victory last year. Impressive. The women never disappoint.
And speaking of women never disappointing, Funke Akindele's Everybody Loves Jennifer has broken the record for Nollywood's highest grossing one-day performance, as well as the biggest opening weekend of all time. In an announcement by film distributors Film 1 NG, the film grossed a staggering 87.8 million naira on its first day and 206 million naira in its opening weekend.
Impressive, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So women never disappoint, as you said.
Never disappoint. We always represent. So what are some of the things that you're saying about the big stories this morning? Kadi, where do we start from?
Naturally,
the win by Nigerians yesterday.
We talk about all the flags that we get here and there, but I don't think we talk about our wins enough. The fact that we have Nigerians doing the country proud, both home and
abroad.
What we call abroad. And of course, our sportsmen and women did not disappoint yesterday. A lot of us were anticipating that night, the CAF Awards. What would be the lot of our nominees for the men's and women's categories? Well, we're happy to tell you, just in case you have not heard yet, that Ademola Lookman is the best footballer in Africa and one of the top footballers in the world. And I think that's naturally inevitable because of his performance, playing in Europe's big league, scoring hat tricks, just doing great stuff. So congratulations, Ademola Lookman. But he's not the only one.
Congratulations to Chiamaka Nnadozie. Yeah. We're talking about women representing and never disappointing. They also represented well, by picking up the women's team of the year, the Super Falcons, and that is coming despite the challenges that they faced during the year, particularly during the games, at the Paris Olympics. So congratulations to the Super Falcons. We are super proud of you.
I must say that we still have some sort of grouse against the awards. There are some awards we expected to come our way, didn't come our way. There are some, shortlists we expected to be there, but we didn't get there. But we'll talk about that, some other time. But let's talk about what you were saying about Ademola Lookman being crowned the African Player of the Year. And there you see, this is the moment he got that award. First, we need to talk about Ademola Lookman's outfit. I mean, look
very
at that.
Nigerian.
Very beautiful. The Yoruba Agbada. I removed the demon part because clearly this is not a demon. This is a great guy right here. So he represented across board. You can see football governing heads, both internationally and continentally, giving him that.
And I know one person who would have carried a placard to Morocco had Ademola Lookman not won this award, and that person is sitting right over there, Jeffrey. Jeffrey had begun this campaign months ago, and he had advocated that the award deservedly should go to Ademola Lookman. So I'm sure Jeffrey's very happy.
Definitely, because it's inevitable, as I said earlier on. All of the stats go in his favor. I mean, this is not to take away anything from the other footballers in Africa, but you look at Ademola Lookman, look at his stats, his goals, his assists, how he shows up for big games, both for country and for club, and you know that it was a no-brainer. But let's take comments from Victor. I imagine that this is not Victor Osimhen, but of course his teammates have been congratulating him. Victor says, well-deserved. He's been fantastic for his club and country. Congratulations, Lookman.
And Candy Love is also profuse in his comment. And her comment, and they say, incredible journey. Ademola Lookman's rise is a true testament to resilience and hard work.
This next user, Bankole, says Ademola Lookman thanking the world in Yoruba. Our very own Omoluabi carrying Nigeria with pride.
And Jerry also says, of course, we're bringing you that sound bite very soon, but Jerry says he's winning it back to back. Come this same time, December, he'll be crowned best in Africa again, 2025.
I like that. No harm being a little twist.
We're very miserly with our awards, right? Yes. We don't like them going outside.
Because we keep it well.
The Nigerian flag.
Osimhen kept it very well, handed over to Lookman. But let's listen to what Lookman said right after winning that award. So take a listen.
And the winner is Ademola Lookman.
I want to say a few words in my language. Ekale, Nigeria, Monki Boboyi, Eshe, Modupe. Firstly, I want to thank Almighty God for everything that He's been doing in my life and everything He's been blessing me with. I want to thank the President. I want to thank all my teammates, club and country. I want to thank them for their support and the love that they give me. This award today is a blessing to me, to my family, to my nation, and to be recognized as the best player in Africa. It's something incredible, and I'm extremely proud of. Just over 4 years ago, I failed in front of the world, and fast forward 4 years, I'm the best player in Africa. I want to say to all the young children and people watching this, don't let your failures weigh you down, that they break your wings. But in fact, turn your pain into your power and continue to fly. God bless.
Yeah. Talk about total representation. I mean, the humility in this speech, the inspiration in the speech, and, you know, the identification with your home country. Total representation.
So this is what we should be arguing about. This is what we should be talking about.
No.
And I think it's also a pointer to the fact that, yeah, fix the police. Also, let's fix our sports system and make sure that we're able to replicate hundreds, thousands more Ademola Lookman, hundreds, thousands more Chiamaka Nnadozie, hundreds, thousands more Super Falcons, Super Eagles. That's also the conversation we should be having, right?
But it would be remiss of us not to look at the whole perspective, all-encompassing, because all of the issues are interconnected in one way or the other.
Absolutely, but this right here for me deserves my attention.
Well, everything deserves our attention, Gadi. But that's not all. What else deserves our attention? It's how to fund the budget, looking away from oil revenue, or, you know, the petrodollars. What are the non-oil sources that we can explore and exploit to ensure that we fund the budget and maybe someday look away from borrowing? So we have experts to weigh in on this issue, and you should be a part of it. So join us after this time out. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Let's talk about the economy. Tomorrow, hopefully, supposed to be today, I think it's now tomorrow, the president should be presenting the budget to the joint session of the National Assembly. And we expect it to be in the region of 47 trillion naira. It's going to be the highest in Nigeria's history, to the best of my knowledge. But when you look at it in dollar terms, may not necessarily be, because of the devaluation of the naira and how the naira has received a lot of beating since the unification of the FX market. We're going to look at all of that, but the focus will primarily be how do we close or reduce this deficit we always have on our budget? How do we diversify? But we're going to piggyback on some of the things that have been released by the Statistics Bureau, the MBS, and we're being joined in the program by Dr. Oni Mobolaji Johnson. He's the chairman, Sunshine Energy, member, Entrepreneurship Development Committee of ICANN. He joins us via Zoom. Dr. Titilayo Fowokon, member, Governing Council, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, joining us via Zoom, and Dr. Nwani, Vice President, Research and Thought Leadership, FMDQ, Director, Research and Policy Advocacy at the LCCI. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Gentlemen and lady, I must say.
Good morning.
My apologies. So let's start with you, Dr. Johnson. And before we get to how to diversify, let's maybe speak to some of the numbers we've seen. We've seen the MBS release some numbers in recent time. It started off from employment numbers down to the GDP numbers that is now at 3.46. And then we had the MBS release the latest inflation numbers keep pegged at 34.6 as the latest inflation number from 33.8. And then food inflation has gone even further up by 39.93%. So I would like you to speak to some of these numbers and what they represent to the economy, but especially that has to do with unemployment numbers going from 5% or so to about 4.3. The concern here is that because of the model we're using and the methodology, it may be misguiding the policymakers and giving them a false sense of hope that things are working when using models like working for 1 hour in a week as a standard for somebody that is employed. I would like you to speak to these issues, especially this particular unemployment. Dr. Johnson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patrick. The standard they use is totally not acceptable all over the world. You can't use a 1 hour to benchmark whether someone is working or not. Of course, the reality we have in the country now shows that a lot of company is going to lay off staff because of the cost of running their business. So National Bureau of Statistics has to do more in using what is a benchmark. The benchmark everywhere all over the world is 80 working hours to show that somebody is fully employed. So the statistic, the data they use, the source of the data they use and the benchmark they use is totally wrong. And then they need to do more on that to what is realizable, to what is reasonable, and to what is obtainable in other climates. Now, we'll want to remark shortly on the issue of budget. You said the 47.9 trillion budget against 18.2 trillion we have 2024. And that is also a reflection on how our Naira has been totally been devalued. So in returns, looking at the cost of energy, which is a major determinant of inflation, energy in the public sector or private sector of establishment, it increased the cost of doing things, and this organization, they has a limit to which they can increase the price. So it's start to do with who is going to bear the burden, and some of them will look inwardly on what they can do with lesser staff, and that is why we have and will continue to have high unemployment rate. And also some that are collecting a salary previously and considering the cost of taking transport to the place of their work, and you discover that it doesn't really worth it. So all these are really making people to be technically unemployed. Some people that even put in the net of employment, they are technically unemployed. So that is a fact we have facing us in the country as we speak. Thank you.
All right, let's get to Dr. Titilayo before my colleagues come in. I want you to speak to the core issue that we're having, because when they present the budget, and of course the Ministry of Finance breaks down all the details as to what is allocated to what ministry, what are the shortfalls, how we're going to close the gap in terms of funding and all of that. Definitely we're going to borrow, and we're still borrowing. And the whole idea is to see how we can minimize borrowing or not borrow at all, if that is even possible. But I want you to piggyback on the fact that the numbers released in our foreign trade, which for me looks like money illusion, excess in terms of 5 trillion naira. But if you look at the core element of that export, over 80% of it has to do with anything that has to do with crude oil and associated things within the petroleum sector. That means we're not diversifying enough. Agriculture, for instance, is about 4% of our export. So what is it in your view that this government needs to start looking at to ramp up so that revenue sources besides the optimization we see in the incoming tax bill will be a lot better so that we're less dependent on crude oil?
Thank you very much. This topic is something that is really, this is the right time we should be talking about it. And when we talk about diversification, we have to look at where did we start from. I always say it anytime I have opportunity to talk about how Nigeria got to where we are. There used to be a time where we have the groundnut pyramid, and that is when we gave agriculture the pride of place. And I think we have to go back to that era when we start talking about diversification. We have we have the land, we have the arable lands, we can actually use that. We know we are battling with the issues of insecurity, which I believe that for where we don't have that challenges, how can we best use what we have, and that is our land, to be able to generate enough products for export? And this is an opportunity where we need to harness a lot of time. We have so much that we can get out of here. Every time we talk about our own products, how can we get this into the external market as much as possible? And this will also drive our foreign exchange, because export is a means whereby we can raise this foreign exchange that seems to be an issue for our day. Now, let's also come back to, apart from agriculture, because we're talking of diversification, let's leave the tax revenue, because tax can only come where there's an income or there's a profit. But if you're not making the economy so good, you can't talk about getting tax revenue. Now, let's look at our solid minerals. We have quite a lot of states that we have deposits of solid minerals. We had a time where, I think somewhere in Osun State, there was that complaint that foreigners come there, they come and just get the minerals there. They don't pay anything to the government, and they make good with this money. So how best can we now use this? Because these are things that we have that are natural to us, that God has blessed us with as a nation. Then how do we turn this into economic development for the country? How do we make sure that this generates that fund we need, that foreign exchange we need? This is where government should be looking at. They should be looking at what do we have. And at times we say for Nigeria that we actually import what we have and export what we don't have. But in this instance, we need to look at what do we have that can make more revenue for government. And then we start having less, because I see the budget. The budget is saying that we are going to start looking for additional borrowing to fill the deficit. And we are not even going to look at this additional borrowing from even the external, because we seem to have used our lifelines in the external. We now have to look at the domestic. So the question we're now going to be asking ourselves is, if we are looking at funding the budget from the domestic environment, and that means we're still coming back to the business environment, to the business world, how do we make sure that the businesses are okay to be able to even fund this for government? And that takes us into industrialization. Because if we want to talk about diversification, we must create an environment where there's infrastructure, where we can actually get the research and development. Government should start looking into this. What are the things that we can do that will make us to be, as much as possible, less dependent on imports? And that's where our problem, the resolution of the issues will start from. Our level of dependence on import needs to go down. And we should start looking at how do we get things out of this country to other countries. We have the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement and the area. How best are we going to harness this? Now, moving out of that, how best can we get it out of the African environment to all the other worlds? I know some of the foreigners come to Nigeria, they appreciate our culture, they appreciate our clothes, so they want to get something done. How can we get our small and medium to be developed such that they can work? Because there are the people in these areas of this level of economy, and they employ quite a lot of people. So government needs to look into these areas. Agriculture, our solid minerals, how do we get infrastructure to be there? And that is where they have to talk about partnership with the private sector. At times, we cannot leave government to do everything, though people feel government should be able to do it. But I believe that partnering with private sector, bringing some level of accountability and being able to run this project effectively.
So still exploring, other non-oil non-oil sources of revenue besides agriculture. The report came through last year that non-oil sources surpassed, oil revenue from oil by, about 67%. And this year, the Immigration Service is reporting, surpassing its targets to the tune of about 5 trillion naira. Now, what is the potential of, funding the budget from non-oil sources, and at what cost does it come to the economy? I'm taking this to Mr. Vincent now.
All right, thank you for having me. We've been on this conversation for too long. The need to diversify Nigeria's revenue from oil cannot be overemphasized, and my colleagues on this panel have also alluded to this. And your question is, how do we do that? I think the starting point will be to look at the quick wins, and also look at what we can do in the medium term and long term. Because if we say the answer will just be diversification, yes, that's correct, that's sustainable, but that is probably on the medium to long term now, because you want to put infrastructures in place, you want to put some reform in place, and you want to put the regulatory and policy environment in place. All this takes time. So I think that the starting point will be to look at what Nigerians are doing now and what they are doing best, and see what we can harness from that. What are our comparative advantage, over the world right now? And I look around, like my colleague said, she talked about our culture, she talked about the way the world sees us. Our entertainment industry, be it in music, be it in Nollywood, it's making wave all over the world. How do we leverage on this potential? How do we leverage on this potential? During the intro, you and your colleague mentioned what Funka Kendele's new premiere is doing around revenue within the first week. And we can replicate this on many platforms. So how do we get all of these things done? So I think that we have to start by first retaining what we have already. Over the last 5 years, we saw about 80 multinationals either left Nigeria or downsized or parked their, closed shops. How do we even retain what we have and ensure that this bleeding stops? That is a starting point. In 2024 alone, about 10 multinationals have also exited. Last week or so, Netflix, that was even powering the entertainment sector, something happened, and they were rebooted whether they left or not, but something is not the way it should be. So I think the starting point is one, to stop the bleeding. And this is the low-hanging fruit. How do we channel our tax into harnessing these areas I've mentioned that Nigeria can quickly harness? The IT, the ICT, Nigerians are also doing a bit better in these areas. And we probably don't need to have 24 hours electricity or build road or rail from one end of the country to the other. That will take time before we harness all these areas. This is not a consulting session, but I think on the top level, we need to plan and look at scenario analysis to identify these areas that Nigerians can even harvest right now, within the next 6 months to 1 year, to be able to fund our budget, because the budget kickstarts in 2-3 weeks' time. So where do we get the money and reduce deficit? That is the conversation now. That's the conversation now. The tax revenue, we saw, I think the Q2, that's quarter 2, 2024, clearly suggests that tax revenue from corporates have fallen by about 28-30%. Right. And we know the reasons for that. The operating environment, business environment is exacerbated by inflation, by exchange rate issue impacted corporate organizations in Nigeria. They are now making losses. And like you said before, when you make loss, you cannot pay taxes. Right. So it's a hydra-headed monster, and I think the first thing is for us to look inward and to look at the low-hanging fruits that we can pick up. And the major hanging fruit, apart from tax revenue and all these areas, if you ask me, is for us to look at how we can harvest the strength of Nigerians in diaspora.
All right, we'll explore that point, a very vital point you've made, Dr. Nwani. And when you said earlier on that this is not a consulting session, I think Nigeria can do with a little bit of consultation here and there from people like you. Right, and I would like to just go back to Dr. Mobolaji Johnson on this one. Quite a number of points have been raised already, and we'll try to explore them. But ultimately, this conversation is about finding solutions, right? And I'd like you to speak to this point. Let's imagine that the budget is passed by January or before January, and that we have these challenges still staring at us, right? Do you think it's also a disservice to actualizing at least a smooth budget implementation that we've not been able to also pass or agree on the tax reform bills?
Yeah, you see, never envisage that we are going to have a smooth sailing, because the principal determinant of the budget, like you rightly mentioned or pointed out, is oil. And looking at what is happening in concerning the Russian-Ukraine war, coming in of American president, that is President Trump, we foreseen that the war may likely stop. And then once that happens, it may also reduce the cost of oil in the country, in the international market. And Nigerian will depend so much on this budget because of oil, the price of oil. So that is number one. Number two, on the tax reform bill, yeah, government have really announced to do more by getting so many people into the tax net. Many international organizations that do business in Nigeria without charging people VAT. Government have really, in the new tax bill, they have really set out their tentacle, their net, to make sure they can capture into the tax net. We have value-added tax moving from 7.5% to 10%, and thereafter to 15%. So there is a projection that we are going to have more of tax if that one escapes through. Now, but with what we have seen so far, with discussion on the scene on the issue of the tax reform bill, we have issue. And the issue is basically on the issue of VAT. Now, before now, you know that VAT are shared by federal government, state, and the local government. The former tax law, the former bill, the former practice is federal government take 15%, the state take 50%, and then the local government take 35%. But now we have a proposed bill that is suggesting 10% to federal, 55% to state, and 35% to local government. But that's not the issue. The issue is from 50% to state, the sharing formula is used to be at the ratio of 40-40-20. 40 from the land size, population, and then 20% on derivation. Now we're having a reversal of that. We're having 60-40-40. 60-40-40 on derivation. So if we really need the concept of the Northerner to really see positively in the light of this, the need for them to develop their region and allow this tax reform bill to really escape through. So if that's happened, then we'll be talking about, okay, the projection of government on the tax reform bill will be achievable. And another thing we also have to lay emphasis on, comparing 2023-24 budget, 2024 budget, this current year budget, the cost of servicing debt is 45% of the total budget. And we are still borrowing more. The cost of servicing debt, not to refund the debt, is 45% of the total budget. And we have the increase of 30%. So, and this money we are paying in dollars, especially external debt. So, we are still going to pay. So, and we are still borrowing more, just like you rightly mentioned. So this indices is still going up. So all these factors we need to really be looked into, and before the budget, so say, can be a smoothing sailing budget. And I also want to call the attention of Nigerians to this, because when we say 4.79 trillion, it's just a figure. And that really represents how our Naira has been solely devalued. We have 2024, we have 18.32 trillion. Now 2025, we are talking about 4.9 trillion. 2024 budget is benchmarked on 750 Naira per dollar. Now federal government, because they want to make more, of course, you know, they throw to the air to caution the exchange rate regulation. Custom, somebody mentioned that they discovered that custom generates more. They will generate more because they are using 1,004 Naira to dollar against what the budget benchmark of us 750 Naira. So what we see now that is like something like giving hope, it is a false hope. And it's really impacted because of the exchange rate that the custom is using. So nothing is changing. So except the issue of tax reform bill is well addressed and annexed, and the Northerners see to this in a positive light, except the issue of the, and the government should not expect so much more on the revenue from oil, because with what we have, we accept that we are having an increase in our generation about 2.6 million barrels per day. But when we are talking about international price of oil, for what we are looking at in the future, in the next year to come, after the end of the Ukraine and the Russian war, there is possibility of fall in the price of oil at the international market. So we have to really be very careful of this. We have to note all this. And then before we can say a budget, 2025 budget will be a smooth sailing budget. So we, with what we are looking at now, it's not going to be so. Thank you.
Let's bring you in, Dr. Titilayo. So our debt is big. I think about 140-something trillion. And then, of course, we're still raising Euro bonds. It was oversubscribed. Our interest rates, that for the people that are getting these Euro bonds, of course, it's good business for them. But for those of us who are paying, who are Nigerians, the Nigerian state is borrowing is high, because there has to be, they added the premium, it's about 9%. And there are other encumbrances that is really checking on our books. We've been able to securitize what we inherited from the Buhari administration to about 40 or 30 years in terms of the ways and means. So there's a lot hanging around. But let's talk about the low-hanging fruit. I saw a trade document in the 60s that showed that cocoa, granules, and the palm oil raked in more revenue for us in terms of FX than even crude oil and all the oils that you can talk about. I'm talking about crude oil, for instance. So we missed something. So what can we do in terms of agriculture? The GDP numbers that were released in Q3 that showed that our GDP appreciated by 3.46. But year on year, we could see that it was just about 1.2%, which is not good by any standard. Even if the government celebrates that it grew, but that is not something to really celebrate. Something is missing. Agriculture is the highest contributor to GDP. But when it comes to revenue, it is still oil. How do we reposition agriculture to begin to make that money we're looking for? We're blessed with arable land all over the country.
Okay, thank you for that. I just thought back when you mentioned cocoa and the likes. And coming back to agriculture, if we look at most of our states, and when you talk of cocoa, you're talking about the states in the Ondo area, the Ondo, the Osun, the Ekiti side. When you're talking about some of these things, palm plantation, and all these things are things which over there, outside Nigeria, are things that they are looking for. For instance, there was a time we were talking about our matches, that why would we import matches? But you now have people come here, take some of this product, take it abroad, and then make it, improve it, and sell it back to us, and we import, and we use our foreign exchange to import it and put pressure on the foreign exchange. One thing we need to do, and I was good, I heard one of our panelists talk about low-hanging fruits. Agriculture is our low-hanging fruit. We need to now start to look at what have we not done well? How did we move away? Because when we started seeing oil, we forgot all those other things that have been able to give us that foreign exchange, that export, that market outside there. And we need to come back. We have to look back at our cocoa. What have we done? What is the problem? Where have we missed it? And I want to believe that every state government is going to start looking back into agriculture because it is sustainable. Apart from talking about taxation, which is dependent on your income, agriculture is another sustainable means of growing the economy. And not just agriculture now. How do we get this produce in such a way that they get outside the borders of Nigeria as much as possible? We are talking about exports. A lot of things that we can do on export side. We have goods that we can export on the agriculture side. I know a lot of people talk about shea butter. I can actually go into that. We'll talk about food crops. I have a friend who actually called me and said, I need to have dried fish. In the UK and in the US, How do we come back and look at these things? Food. Areas of agriculture gives us that food that we can move at. How do we now come and look at how best can we package this in such a way that it can be exported? There's a lot of sayings in the media about export business, but I've had people that went into it, but they're not getting that support of government. How will government now come educate people? I believe education does a lot. There are a lot of people that are there, unemployment. We're talking of unemployment. How do we create an avenue whereby we bring all these resources, these youthful resources, these human resources together to be able to develop the agri business? And we must not remove industrialization. Now, we have good products here that comes from our farm. How do we now make sure that they are protected, they are preserved, such that we can get them into the export market? Unfortunately, there's a sad story that I hear that now we have the injection of our agri products into, and then this now becomes putting some things into it to make it to be bigger, to make it to, we don't need this. Our lands are very good. So what I would plead to government is to come back home and see how we can get this, our agri produce, the cocoa, the cotton. In fact, cotton is another area that we are losing out. We talk about fabrics. We have good fabrics in this country, and the backward integration for fabric is cotton. How do we go back into our cotton growth? And in the North, and that's why I want to really plead with people in the North, my fellow colleagues in the North, the governors in the North, to look at some of these things. Cotton is a product from the North. How can this be transformed? We now talk about textile. We lost our textile industry. These are good textiles. How do we go back and create that? So that this, one of the panelists says, let us keep what we have. How do we keep what we have to be able to? So government should come back home. Let's not just talk about it. Let's make it work. And with this, we can actually start talking about exports. We can talk about foreign exchange input. Now, the more we export, the more we are able to have this balance in the foreign exchange pressure. And we are already talking about 1,400 in the budget. Now, but in the reality, when we go out there, it's about 1,007, 1,006. So we need to really bridge this gap.
All right, Dr. Falco, you talked about mineral resources earlier, and there's a lot also to explore in that space. You could look at gold, for instance, and there seems to be, as far as mineral resources are concerned, there seems to be some of inertia, non-activity as far as processing is concerned. Nigerians prefer to purchase gold outside the country, even though the raw material is here, but very little processing is happening. Look at rubber, the tire manufacturing companies have all exited. So what are we missing in that space? And would it be instructive to look at perhaps, a constitutional amendment where states can intervene in exploiting raw materials? That's on the one hand. On the other hand, which is also related, there seems to be some progress in the area of assembling for manufacturing of cars, but Nigeria spends about $8 billion annually on vehicle importation. So what is the opportunity costs that Nigeria is missing in the area of car manufacturing, and how we can also scoop some form of revenue from that sector? Dr. Wani, that's for you.
Oh, thank you very much. Car manufacturing, that's interesting. Car assembly, that's interesting, The last time I checked, on the Nigerian road, we have about 14 million vehicles on Nigerian road, which is quite a huge number. Even if we want to measure on the parts, vehicle parts, to service those 14 million vehicles. On the annual basis, Nigeria inject about 300,000 to 400,000 new vehicles, not new ones, the ones we called fairly used as Tokumbo and the new ones combined. This is from the licensing office. But the sad part of it is that the brand new vehicles, out of these 300 to 400,000 vehicles, the brand new vehicle is about 20,000 vehicles, all of them imported. Most of them imported. Very few are either serving as the full knockdown or the semi-knockdown SKD. that we saw in Austin and some other assembly plants doing. The challenge to car assembly plants in Nigeria is still the same challenge facing the industry. We cannot talk too much about the electricity supply here, but what is actually affecting the car industry in Nigeria is that for you to either manufacture car, you need about 20,000 different parts. Of course, the electric car is coming, but we're talking about petrol-powered engines now. What are the things we can bring in as input from Nigeria? Of course, we're down with rubber. We don't manufacture rubber. We have steel. Steel is a major input into car manufacturing. We are not there. Even if it's the brake pad, which is part of rubber and some other components. So charity begins at home. And we've seen a lot of the time Nigeria partner or license car assembly plants to come and operate in Nigeria. But these issues continue to affect them. We will see some of them, after licensing them, they went to a nearby country, Ghana, set up something there, and from there they bring in things into the country. So the challenge is not that people don't want to do business in Nigeria and they explore our huge market, almost 240 million people, but the ease of doing business. And like I said before, these are low-hanging fruits. Addressing the ease of doing business challenge will not only unlock car assembly in Nigeria, and we begin to either manufacture cars or even do the assembly very seriously. But we need to look at the ease of doing business, multiple taxation, security issues, the FS crisis. Ease of doing business affect both car assembly, manufacturing of whatever type of thing we want to look at. So that's a major challenge. There are about 26 different car brands, operating in Nigeria. But what are they operating in? They are just bringing cars and they are selling, through their trading companies. This need to be changed, and I think it is time that we look at even Nigerians that are in that space and see how we can partner them and see how we can encourage them. The huge amount of money spent by state governors, the State House of Assembly, the Federal House of Assembly, the Senate and the National Assembly, the presidency, the ministers, in buying cars every year. Look at the 2024 budget or even the draft 2025 budget. You see huge amount of money in hundreds of billions allocated for cars. Can we say that at least 50% of these cars have to be Nigerian assembled? Charity begins at home. And if our politicians can show that example, I believe and I know that corporate leaders, companies can also follow suit. So I think that these reforms need to start from the top, on what we eat, on what we use. And if we start with cars, I think it will go a long way.
Thank you to Mr. Mobolaji Johnson. Your last thoughts on this particular issue, maybe speaking to how we can explore the capital market. We're already doing that with some of the things we are raising, but how we can be more effective in raising these monies and possibly to cut our coat according to our cloth, as they say, although people are saying, which is arguably correct, that our budget size is quite small, but given that our revenue is not as big as it should be, shouldn't we be cutting our cloth according to our cloth?
That is the first step to solve this problem. We need to cut our coat according to our size, or our dress, our cloth according to our size. Yeah, you see, government's revenue is not sufficient to their expenditure, and then we still have to borrow. Why must we need to borrow? We need to look at what do we spend money on. I only have the statistics of 2023-2024 budget. We have about 45% of the budget on recurrent expenditure. You cannot take that away. And then with servicing of debt, of course, that one is still ongoing, like I've said. And then the other statutory transfer, that one is going higher. That one has to do with government lifestyle. I don't expect in this kind of our economy, somebody's going to for occasion, and we have a convoy, about 10 or 20 vehicles and a convoy. We really need to cut it. If you are saying, yes, Nigeria, we don't have money, our government have to lead by example. They have to live. Also, that has to affect their lifestyle, the way they live. What are we spending money on? It is very sad to note that 2023 compared to 2024, we only have about a few minus 3% in the budget of capital expenditure. So you see, when we source for money, when you borrow, what do you borrow for? Do you borrow to finance lifestyle of some selected few, or do you borrow to pay loan? It is very, very heartbreaking that when you borrow to pay loan. Now, and that is the reason why looking forward on the issue of the infrastructure, I rather prefer, apart from what the panelists have said, that we really need to diversify our economy. Then there are some other things we also need to do, which is tasked to infrastructural swap, which is a need for us. And that's the best way to actually finance our infrastructure. Okay. Now, what do you borrow for? You borrow for corruption. You borrow money to repair the road, and 40% of the money you budgeted to repair the road is going to somebody's pocket. What do you borrow for? You borrow to finance lifestyle. So you're talking about raising funds. We actually have to, what we raise funds for has to be tied with infrastructure, has to be tied with a particular project that will really need to monitor and ensure that that project well executed. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your thoughts. As always, Dr. Oni Mobolaji Johnson is the chairman, Sunshine Energy, a member Entrepreneurship Development Committee of ICANN. Joining us via Zoom, Dr. Titilayo Fawokon, member, Governing Council of Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Dr. Wani, Vice President, Research and Thought Leadership, FMDQ, Director of Research and Policy Advocacy at the LCCI. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for bringing your thoughts on this particular issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a quick break. And now when we come back, we'll switch gears to other issues of importance. Maybe just hang around. We may be talking about sports next. Join us again.
We didn't win the AFCON, but I think we'll just make do with this one. Ademola Lookman, Chiamaka Nnadozie, Super Falcons, even other Super Eagles players getting awards yesterday or being named in the Team of the Year. So I think the year is ending on a good note for us. But it's important to walk through that moment, maybe walk backwards, more importantly, walk forward and look at what the future holds. How do we replicate more of Ademola Lookman's, more of Nnadozie and the rest? We're joined on the program as we bask in that euphoria by our very own Austin Okon-Akpan, Channels TV correspondent. He's live for us in London, as well as a sports broadcaster, also our very own Toyin Ibitoye. Gentlemen, welcome to the Morning Brief.
Thank you, guys. Good morning.
Let me just ask, did you catch a good sleep, or was it celebration all night for you, Austin?
You could see, like, when I saw Patrick's call, I was like, oh my goodness, it's morning already in Nigeria. Because I was still awake till about 3 a.m., doing production as regards Ademola Lookman's victory. It's so good for football in Nigeria, taking over from his compatriot, Victor Osimhen. Just to think about it, that the last time we won before Victor did was Victor Ikpeba in 1997. I was in 1999, Kanu Wankwa, and now we are getting to do this thing again and again. So I was like, oh, this is so good for football in Nigeria, so let's celebrate it. Sometimes you need to celebrate your small wins so that people around you will know that you're coming out big time.
I mean, I like the way you take us back memory lane, and I strongly believe they robbed Okocha of that award. I think Okocha should have gotten that award at some point. But Toyin, for you, when you saw that victory, was it like an inevitable moment for you, or you still had doubts? Maybe, maybe not.
I mean, clearly, it was very clear that the best African footballer in the year under review is Ademola Lookman. If you look at what he was able to do for club, what he was able to do for country, so I had no doubt that he was the man for the award. But you know, these awards are vote-based, so they are more like some form of election. Sometimes your best candidate may not win an election if those who are voting decide to vote the other way. So I had a little bit of doubt, particularly when I started seeing the Moroccan, Hakimi, coming in with a private jet from Paris, coming with the owner of his club. I started to have a little feeling that would you go through all of that if you were not assured of the victory. But on the balance of what he was able to do for his club, what he was able to do in the green and white of Nigeria, Ademola Lookman was head and shoulders above the rest. So it was not a surprise, but I had a little bit of doubts, a little bit towards the, you know, it's normal. When the winner is about to be called, you're asking, could they have voted along this line, you know? So, but at the end of the day, I'm happy. It's deserved, well deserved.
Okay, Austin, me, I had no doubt. Mr. Bitoye, I had no doubts. They had to give him, or they had to give him, or they had to give him. there are no way. Because I've been campaigning and I've been waiting for this moment because, of course, you saw what he did. Lookman has been incredible himself, perhaps surprised at how he's risen so fast. But let me bring you, Austin. What does this do to our football? How do we build from this? Because now, you know the term we use, we have done it back-to-back, undisputed best on the continent. Where do we build from here?
Very, very important question, Geoffrey. You see, our leaders, I say it all the time, particularly when Victor Osimhen won, like, what have we done with that? Particularly that we had waited for so long before he did. And just to go back a bit, you wouldn't blame Twin for his cynicism because this thing is abracadabra. It's just one announcement, and then you find out that we're leaving that hall, you know, with our hands on our cheeks. That it happened to Mikel, it happened to Okocha. So this time around, with everything that, look, the good thing about this win is that Ademola Lookman was so consistent from winning from the AFCON final to the Europa League final to the current form that he is at the moment. NFF, now you have the African Player of the Year back to back. It tells you that maybe talent isn't our problem. Maybe it's a bit of administration that we just need to find out ways that we can jump on stuff, you know, and use it to, you know, particularly build at the grassroots, inspire young talents. For instance, listen to the speech of Ademola Lookman. He was already using that platform to inspire lives when he told them, use your pain, to turn your pain to your power and continue to fly. You know, you would be shocked how far those words would go to inspire young persons. NFF, look at the story of Ademola Lookman. Tell a beautiful story that will inspire young people. I've been to Waterloo where he started here in England, you know, as a little boy. And he was so ambitious. Every young coach that I've spoken to that Ademola Lookman passed through said they knew he was going to be this sort of player because he was someone who understood dedication, sacrifice, commitment, and you can tell in his professional football. So I think the NFL should sit down and tell a beautiful story from this, package him in a way that they can even use Ademola Lookman to get some level of support and sponsorship for football in Nigeria.
So, Mr. Bitoye, it was also a good night for Nigerian female football yesterday. Looking at the categories, Namaka Nadozie representing well, and even the Super Falcons team. But help us understand the sentiment, particularly when you look at, you know, that category that Chiamaka won. The other female goalkeepers also come with some very good skills, and you know, considering also that the Super Falcons, you know, had some down times during the year. So, are there some sentiments that are like, oh no, perhaps, you know, the wins should have gone to other teams?
Okay, without a doubt, Chiamaka is Africa's best. In fact, Chiamaka goes beyond the African story. She's one of the best in the world, and she plays regularly in the Women Champions League, where she's instrumental to our club, Paris FC, being always campaigning for the title. saving penalties, incredible saves, both for the club and for the national team. So without a doubt, none of the goalkeepers mentioned comes close or could even put a candle to what Chiamaka Nnadozie has been able to do. Not just this year. You heard her talk about winning it last year. She's been very consistent. She's clearly heads and shoulders above the rest in that category. And that's why she also came a close second for the main award, which is the Women Footballer of the Year. So there was no fear about Chiamaka's victory. She's been good. If you followed the Super Falcons year in, the last couple of years, you know the number of times our heroics has kept us in the game, has helped us to win games, has pushed us on. We qualified for the Olympics for the first time in about 16 years. She was at the center of it. So without any doubt, Chiamaka his victory is deserved. And our dominance in women's football has been there for so many decades. Our worry now is how to keep up that momentum. You don't stop, because a lot of other countries are also beginning to invest in the women's game, and they're really closing in on us. South Africa, Morocco, Zambia, that produced the Women Footballer of the Year for the first time by Banda, are also closing in on us. They were at the last Olympics. They were at the Olympics before that one. So a lot of other countries are beginning to invest in the women's game. And the dominance that we used to enjoy, where we used to trash teams 7, 8, 9-0, is no longer there. Now we win by the odd goal, 1, 2, at most 3, So it shows that, yes, we've done well to have maintained that level of dominance, but we still have to do a lot more if we want to keep winning, keep churning out talent on a regular basis.
Because what you find is a tendency to now hold on to this win as some sort of pass mark. You see, we're doing great stuff, so the administrators will tell you, don't say we're not doing well. Look at Ademola Lookman, look at Nnadozie and the rest. So as much as we celebrate this, we don't want to make this, give us some sort of false, feeling of what the reality is. And I'm glad we're speaking to that. So we've always lagged behind in some sense, right? And I think maybe this might encourage administrators, government to do more. So Austin, let me come to you now. I'd like us to speak to specifics. We'll look at what the budget has for sports funding when it is presented eventually. But if you were to have a sit down with sports administrator all the way up, because I know the president will be interested, he will congratulate Ademola Lookman and stuff. What would you be telling them, Austin?
I'll continue from where I stopped the last time, Kayode. I'll say, go back and find out how Ademola Lookman started with his football. Go and see the level of support, the level of planning, deliberate planning, which tells you that, look, if the foundation be destroyed, what can the righteous do? I'll tell them, look, everybody jumps up and admires a building, forgetting that it started from sketches, from drawings, which is very important, it's pivotal, and it's missing in our sports, not just football in Nigeria. We just want consumption, go to competitions. Let's produce more Ademola Lookman. And let's be careful, I'll tell them, don't start singing and dancing. This is not really your product. It is England that produced this guy. It's because of his love for the motherland. That's why he's playing for Nigeria today and doing it so well. So I'll tell them, we go back to the basics. Kayode, back in the day when we had the academicals, the principal corps, God bless his soul, Coach Stephen Keshi, the late Coach Stephen Keshi was brought up from St. Finbar's College. They used to go to the schools to pick talent. I think we need to go back. It's good now. I love the mandates that Mr. President has given to the National Sports Commission. It says build a sports economy. But how do you build a sports economy? First, you need to invest. And then, like a farmer, you water. Because now you've planted. You water, you put things into it, and now you expect to, reap what you sow. Because you definitely reap what you sow. invest in young talents, invest, just as Tony said, we need to invest more in the women's game because they always turn up for us all the time, but they don't get the sort of attention that they deserve. We also need to pay more attention, Kayode, to infrastructure. Infrastructure development is very, very important. And lastly, kill all form of corruption with our sports, because sports isn't leisure, it's big business. In Europe, where I am now, you can see the way they are even finding ways to put Ademola Lookman into the conversation because they will look for a market inside this wing. That's how much they are working. So sports is serious business, and for us to achieve that economy, we must see it as that, treat it as that, and protect that business environment.
All right, Mr. Epitoye, your last take on this one. I know you have a front seat in this particular one. I haven't worked with the Super Eagles, and I know you've seen a couple of how these things play out. So what should we be doing, maybe picking back from what Austin has said?
Absolutely. I mean, Austin has said so much. This is an individual award. We shouldn't forget. It is an individual award. It's more on what an individual has been able to achieve for himself that is rubbing off on Nigeria, although you could say Nigeria gave him the platform. Last year, it was Victor Osimhen. Now it's Ademola Lookman. We are never short on talents. That's one. We always have talents. What we do with the talents that we have is a different story altogether. So as we said, it's important for us to begin to invest on grassroots sports. That's very key, so that you are able to identify these talents. There's talent everywhere. My boss, the former Minister of Sports, Sunday Dare, would always say, the gold is in the child. Every child has got the potential to win gold, to get to the top, very top of whatever career they choose, if they are discovered quite early and they are nurtured and exposed and supported to get to the highest level. So that's what we need to do. Invest, as Austin said, in the grassroots, schools, streets, take care of out-of-school children, provide opportunity for them to get facilities to earn their skills, and then draw up programs that will allow them to rise to the top, get exposed, and then you push them out to international limelight. So these are the things that's the heavy lifting of sports, investing in the grassroots, discovering these talents from early on in their life, and providing that pathway through which they grow from the cradle to the podium. That's the heavy lifting. And if we are able to get that right, we will take our place of pride in terms of being a powerhouse in sports, not just in Africa, but globally.
Very instructive words. So again, while we celebrate that individual win or those individual wins, we have to do the collective work. We'd like to thank you so much, Tony Epitoye, sports broadcaster, as well as Austin Okonakpan, Channel Civic correspondent. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We'll take a moment now, and when we return, we've come full circle on this next conversation. On the 1st of January this year, an announcement was made right here on the Morning Brief for a series which is getting so much accolade now on Netflix. We have two special guests joining us. Yeah, 7 doors, that's the clue. So stay with us right here. It's a Morning Brief.
My coming movie, I'm a Yoruba married an Igbo woman in the movie, and the Igbo tribe, supported the husband that is a core Yoruba king. They supported with their traditions and everything. It was beautiful.
Is that coming out this year?
Yeah, that's one of the films you should look out for this year.
Do you want to tell us the title?
Cross-cultural.
Yes, I can tell you the title for free. It's 7 Doors.
7 doors.
Yeah, watch out for it.
7 doors.
It's going to be big.
There you go. So you heard it here, 7 doors this year. When?
For the first time on the Morning.
Is this the first time you're talking about it?
It's the first time I'm saying it anywhere.
So there you go, exclusive right here on Channels Television, Morning Brief, 7 Doors. When is it coming out? Mid-year?
Mid-year, yeah.
Mid-year. Yeah. We'll, of course, be looking forward to that, and of course, premiering. Have you started shooting yet?
Don't.
So, what is the origin of Seven Doors, and where do Seven Doors lead? Now, I've watched the reviews online. I must admit I haven't seen the movie, but the reviews have been giving me goose pimples, and I can't wait, to get on Netflix and see the movie. But let's get first-hand backstory of production, acting, going into character, and all the other elements that went into cooking that very good spicy movie that most Nigerians have been seeing. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Nollywood greats Femi Adebayo and Chioma Chukwuka. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief. It's great to have both of you on the show.
Thank you very much.
It's a comeback for Femi.
Yes,
it's a comeback. So that was exclusive.
Yes. Good morning. So, the question that is running through the minds of most Nigerians is, Uncle Femi, flesh and blood did not reveal the story to you. So what did?
Well, the story is actually inspired by a true life story of a particular king. That's what actually inspired the story. And I have the opportunity of being close to the king, so we were not talking, and he just told me that so many people feel the moment you become a king, you are not human anymore. You don't have feelings anymore, And I asked him further questions like, how do you mean? So he spoke to me about his love life, and I was able to pick that. Okay, so when we now have conflicts between that love and our culture, our tradition, what happens? Which supersedes? So I started thinking about, this should be an interesting theme to work on. And that was how I came about the story. Yeah.
So, one of the things I like about you and your production, I'm coming to you, madam. Your own is special. So we're coming to you.
Why is my own special?
Because he's been here. Okay. You have been on the show. So we're welcoming you specially.
Thank you.
So, one of the things I like about your production is like you break barriers. You literally say, no matter what it will take for me to get this story out, I'm going to get this story. I've seen a couple of your movies. I've seen bits and pieces of Seven Doors. So what is it that gives you the audacity? Because that's quite important in achieving anything. It's great to sit down and think of an idea, because we're going to go to the nitty-gritty of the movies. It's great to sit down and have an idea, but execution is a different kettle of fish, especially when they present you with a budget. You may just think it's no longer the will of God for you to do it. So what makes you carry on?
Well, I'm just a go-getter, and I just think that if I should do it at all, I should do it well. I don't want to leave room for, I should have done it this way. So why didn't I do it that way at that time, And that's always in my mind. So, and I always want to make the next production better than the last one. So I'm happy, I'm excited. I've had people say, this is even better than Jagun Jagun. I'm excited about that. Though they're different genres. Jagun Jagun is an action film. Pure epic action film. If I can call it a war film, But Seven Doors is a drama. Even a series, but they're still comparing. Makes sense. So my next production after Seven Doors should be able to, beat Seven Doors.
The achievement of Seven Doors. So I'm coming to you now. You're looking at me.
He's wondering, what are they going to ask? Everything you want to say is what we want to ask.
Okay, so for me, I'm interested in knowing, because you are the king's favorite in the movie, but you also represent something symbolic, which is the cross-cultural element of the movie. So how does that resonate for you, not just in the movie but also in real life?
So first thing is, it's possible that we will have our differences but live as one. It is actually possible. The most important key in life is love. If you love your neighbor as yourself, I don't see any reason why you can't live together in peace. We all know how, I don't want to delve into that, but we know what you're talking about. And tribe is what is the last, card that is usually played when things like that happen, and it creates a barrier between people, which shouldn't be. We're one. I mean, we're of the same skin color, we're in the same country and all of that. But what Seven Doors did for me is I use that to tell people that this is possible. You know, we're still one, regardless.
So there are layers to your problem in that movie. One is a cultural problem. I remember a particular clip I watched. Maybe you walk us through how you're able to come into character to tell us that, because it was quite instructive. You told him as a king, first, I have to share you with the kingdom. And then now, no, the way she said it, she didn't just say 7 women. She counted in Igbo.
In Igbo.
Walk us through that.
So first of all,
because it's a pressure you had to deal with. Walk us through that process without spoiling, so that people can see the movie.
Yes. So it's actually Femi's directorial debut, right? And he did such a fantastic job. From like walking into set the very first day, Femi said, Choma, this is who I want you to be. You know, I already read the script, I already had my interpretation in my mind, but when Femi started talking and I caught his vision, I had more pressure. I'm like, am I going to be able to deliver this role the way he pictured it, or the way he's picturing it at that time? You know, so it was like we're working together. And it made it easier because he played my husband, right? So it was like, you know, do it like this. This is how it's. Are you sure? So we had, you know, those little arguments, but it kind of like took away a bit of the pressure when we started filming eventually. So having the ability to interpret the role of Amaka, the wife, and then the queen, and then the suffering wife, the enduring wife, was I just had to find a way to weave all of them together because it was a lot for that character, right? There's some scenes that didn't make it to the final cut, you know, and I wish the world saw those scenes because it would break your heart. It will break your heart.
So why didn't you put it, Femi?
I don't know, and I don't want to say what those scenes are, you know. So, but with every step of the way, playing that role, all the things I had to do, it became like it was happening to me, like it was live, and we had all the support we had. I don't know how Femi did it. Everybody came with their A game. Everybody came like, if we don't do this thing, we'll die. That's how it was, you know. And then he had his family support, and they were there every day, every scene 1 to end of every shoot, from day 1 to day end. You know, and what more can you ask for when you have the love and support of family and friends, you know, coming together to, you know, bring your vision to life? So it was difficult, but I was able to, you know, find my way through it.
We need Gola, sorry, before I have Gola come in. Yes, those cuts. That's what we're going to do a special series on director's cuts. She's mentioned something. So you promised us 7 days in January.
7 doors.
7 doors, sorry, my apologies. 7 doors. Yeah. You are here in December. Yeah. 2025 is coming. Are you giving us director's cut, courtesy of Choma's revelation?
Exclusive.
So that's the question. Am I giving you?
I mean, all of us that are your fans and the fans of your work.
I'm not sure because fine. Those scenes were actually very lovely, you know. But when I'm at post, you know, I'm a pacey person. So I love my project being very pacey, you know. And 7 Doors, in as much as there are some scenes that are extremely emotional, and there are some that are very, very funny. So it's a mixture of laughter and sorrow, kind of. So I don't want to take it through too much of emotions. Yeah. You know, those things she's actually talking about, we obviously break down to the extent like, am I watching a movie? And people are even doing that even with this. So and I actually want it to be like a mission. So I'm going to be, of course, releasing those special cuts, probably on my own YouTube
with a film,
page.
there has to be balance, right? You don't want it to be too deep for people to handle. The reviews are so overwhelming. I've seen reviews of people praying, like pausing the film, pausing the series to pray. Father, Lord God, everything that my grandfather did, my great grandfather, please, it ends with them. It should not come to my generation, and whatever I'm doing, let it end with me. It should not filter into my children.
I'm going straight to Netflix.
It's that serious.
It's actually beyond,
it's that serious, and
it's
people
actually
are praying.
beyond what me, the producer,
I mean, you know, you have something, but when it comes out, people see it in another light. People are saying, God, please, give me a love like Amaka's love. Give me the, and I'm like, really? Let me even start praying that prayer.
And you know that's part of the story. The fact that people are bursting out praying and talking about what our forefathers did back then, and you know, manifesting in patterns. You know, how true is that? You know, for you and within the context of the African culture, and what are the lessons that we can learn? You know, from that storyline that Seven Doors brings to our doorsteps and to our homes.
So we know that the African culture is neck deep in, you know, some traditional fetish things and all of that, and those things are real. I know that the spiritual controls the natural, right? And I know that the sins of the fathers, if you do not pray, you end up eating sour grape, because that's what they did. There's something called generational curses, and there's something also called generational blessings. So you choose the one you want. Those curses cannot come to me and my children. You know, you have to put your foot down. I remember, I'm going to put, use myself as an example. I remember when my surname used to be Omuka, right? And something our forefathers did, I think they said, I don't know how true the story is, but they said they killed some slaves and something happened, they buried them alive. And so one of the slaves said, for as long as this, whatever, people will continue to die in this household. And so young men were dying, children were dying. Nothing. They would just fall ill. 1 day they would die. 2 days they would die. Older ones would die. Nothing. They would just. So I saw a pattern, you know, and it was based on what I had heard, and I don't know how true the story is. Like I said, I had to start praying, you know. And my father himself, I saw that he declared. He's still declaring to today. He said he would live up to 120. He's old. He's in his 90s. And I know that he will get to 120 because I came to this life, I heard him say that. And so he had a reason for saying that. So me, I'm declaring too that, you know, I don't want 120. I don't want the one that I will not be seeing well. I'm already wearing glasses. So if I get to 95, 96, glory be to God. At least I'll see my children's children and children's children. I'll be a great grandparent, right? So those are the things. Those are the lessons, one of the lessons you pick from Seven Doors. And we continue to pray. Those things didn't happen in a day, so you can't just pray over it in a day. You have to keep praying, keep reaffirming, keep stamping your foot in the ground to say, this is what I want to possess and all of that.
You know, beautiful story. But Femi, walk us through the complexities of thoughts. Because we've seen movies with great storyline, but the plot just kills it. Just destroy the entire project, and you're like, oh, she didn't have gone this way. Oh, this was absolutely unnecessary. Oh, this person should have done that, all that. So how are you able to keep it together and say, okay, this is the sequence of my production and my thought process that will be able to land the audience to where they are supposed to be? Someone said, how you know a great movie is a conversation after the movie ends and the credit starts rolling. If nobody talks, there's a problem. If everybody starts debating about what they've just seen, then there's a conversation. How do you put together your plot?
So I'm going to give that to my team. You know, I don't do my plot alone. I conceive ideas, concepts alone. You know, so my developments, I have a team that we develop my stories together, we plot together, and by the time we start to plot, you know, we have a lot of arguments, and so after plotting, I invite people that are not even in the industry at all. You know, what do you feel? So I feel the perspective of a layman. You know, what you feel. So from my story, I start to feel what the audience will feel, and it takes me back to the table. So makes my plots very, very, you know, perfect to a reasonable extent, you know. So that's how I go about it. It's not a one-man job. It's not what I do alone, all right? So, but I mean,
how much did it cost you to produce this movie?
Brother, we don't discuss that.
So
I'm a come and love that.
you don't do things like that.
My wife has answered me.
No, LIRS, they are not watching.
Who told you?
FIRS, they will soon be renamed.
My wife don't answer me.
As a matter of fact, I wasn't even paid on this job.
Oh,
yes.
really?
Femi.
Yes, it was done out of friendship.
Out of love, since
Yes.
you were going to be his wife
Because
anyway.
you mentioned LIRS. I tell you, it's 7 dollars everywhere. They must have given this some plenty money. They'll come after. They did not. The family did not pay me.
What about the details of the Netflix partnership? We know that some funds also come from that space.
Oh, funds? Oh, sorry.
She's a great wife.
Fantastic wife.
You understand? Okay, so partnership with Netflix is like the misconception people have. Netflix is leaving Nigeria and all that. Netflix is still partnering with so many producers. All right. So what has been said was that, okay, we might not be commissioning projects. So when you do projects, you take it to the cinemas and we have the choice to say we want to acquire, on our platforms, So that means we still have partnership with Netflix. All right. So after 7 Doors, obviously so many people are expecting to see Jagun 2, which is obviously going to come on Netflix next year. So there are still partnerships with Netflix going on with other producers. So we're still there.
All right. Many would perhaps do not know that you're a lawyer who is now acquiring directorial prowess and production prowess. Okay, so a lot also is being said about the stunts in the film, and I have seen quite a few. Still talking about secrets. I wonder if you're going to be sharing some of those secrets, because I've seen, the accident scene are so profound. I have to carry my face when I'm watching some of them.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that as well.
Well, I'll give that to the SFX team and the VFX team, right? So I always have a picture, and I put my picture in meetings, and I said, how can you make this better? So Akim Effect is a fantastic guy. The guy is a genius.
I know Akim.
Trust me, he's a genius. Akim is...
he's born for the job.
He's an asset to the nation that needs to be, well celebrated.
Will you get him for us?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
The fantastic story about Akim is he didn't go to school to study
to
what
learn
he's
it.
doing. Yeah. I can get Akim and the VFX team, they work together, and we're able to come up with that. So the logs of woods were prepared by Akim. So truly, if you have the log of wood that we made hit you, you won't even feel pain. Still have a lot of woods.
We cannot end without talking to Chairman one more time.
Yeah.
So, what kinds of scripts, and you are an OG in the game, so we have to give you your flowers.
Yes.
Anytime, any day. So at this point, I don't expect you to be doing auditions anymore.
We still do.
No, she should be auditioning others.
Yes, so that's how we see you. We're just telling you how we perceive it.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
What kind of scripts come to you? When the scripts come to you, how do you look at it and say, okay, this is not, I can't do this. I'm asking this for younger generation who are watching, who just want to take on just about anything at the end of the day because of money.
So for me, over the years, what has endeared me towards the kind of jobs that I do is the lessons that will be learned from the film. And how if it just clicks, I don't know how it happens. If there has to be a connection between the script and my imagination and the character I'm playing in that film. If there's something so off about it, I don't do it. I don't do it. There has to be a connection. I guess I can't describe it. You look at it and you know. Well, like when Femi sent the script to me and said, this is it and all of that, I should read it. The script came in black and red. So I would never forget.
I was mentioning this black and red.
This black and red. I was so confused. I said, what's going on here? And then the black was in English, the red was in Yoruba. And I said, so I don't understand. because some parts didn't have the English, the Yoruba interpreted, right? But because born and bred in Lagos, you have to have some basic Yoruba understanding in school. So I was able to say, okay, this is this is that, and all of that.
Don't worry,
so
we have married you. We're going to give you a Yoruba name, please.
I would love that. So I when he told me the story and I read the entire series, I was like, no, this is what I want. This is a message I preach as a human being, as Chioma, and so I would want to do it in films because films last a lifetime. So the message will continue to be there for generations. Yes.
Of course, we have to have you back, Chioma. So much to glean from you, from your wealth of experience, have you back. We've enjoyed the conversation thoroughly, but I'm sure not half as much as we would enjoy watching Seven Doors.
Oh, please.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes.
Femi Adebayo, filmmaker, actor, legendary actress, Chioma Akpotha. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I'm just an actor. All that legend is scary.
Well, we confer it on you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So from this point, we'll take a break. When we return, we'll tell you how to get that perfect Christmas gift for your loved one. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It's 8 days to Christmas, and that's why we will be teaching you on how to gift on a budget. We have the man that will guide us through it right here in our Lagos studio. Mr. Lamidi Atenel is the CEO of Sugar Boy Big House. Thank you so much, Mr. Lamidi, for coming on the program.
Good morning, sir.
Sugar Boy. Sugar Boy. I'm just curious about the name. So, just one moment. Sugar Boy, where did that come from?
Okay, I'm a baker. I deal with sugar. So the name just comes in from nowhere. People keep calling me Sugar Boy. I'm young and I'm doing fantastic well in my business.
So they see sugar when they see
everywhere. Every time they see me, they see sugar everywhere. I'm always
sugar everywhere. Very sweet.
So you just embraced it.
I just embraced and use it as okay. The name is very easy to call, and it really stick well. So I want to use an household name. So
okay. Let's go straight to business. We have this thing in front of us. Walk us through we're talking about gifting on a budget.
Yes.
So maybe you walk us through how to do that for people who don't have so much, but they're interested, sharing love this season.
Okay, let's go straight to that. Okay, when it comes
you can come close to your stuff.
Okay, when it comes straight to gifting on a budget, it not also be able to be something edible, because it has to be something that when that person say or received, it would be used every time. So it has to be just something small. It can be something not like bag of rice.
Even though we don't mind bag of rice, but
but something of value also.
Value, exactly.
So you're not presenting something cheap,
Yes, exactly. That's why I come in with
give a gift.
This is a waffle machine. Maybe someone that loves to make waffles like a breakfast, or this waffle machine a pancake mix machine also. So it can be something usable, like every time when person see this gift, like, wow, last year I got this from also person. So like a water bottle, it's something like, can have it for going to work and everything. So it's something like when you gift, just the budget is very small, not something too much. So that is why I said, okay, as a gift, Christmas time, you don't have to give someone like food, rice, other stuff. You can just do something like when that person say this thing every time, you'll be like, wow, I got this gift from someone.
Person remembers you. Yeah. So let's get right into it. So we have some of our gifts here. I can see the bottle, the waffle maker, the hair.
There is soap.
A couple of things there. But we want to get into wrapping it, because it's always a very tricky part of gifts. In fact, some people don't like wrapping gifts. They like giving inside a plastic bag.
Different types of wrapping, and it's not really...
It's not really presentable,
exactly.
Right? So how best can we wrap this?
Yes, we have a lot of packaging items, and we have boxes, we have baskets, we have a lot of stuff for packing hampers or gifts. But me, I decided to use this wooden box because it's not everywhere, and it's really very unique.
Right.
And it can still, it's not usable in your household. Even after you give that person the gift, I can still be using this box for something.
Can sit down.
Yes, exactly.
Pound the yam.
So that's why I use this a lot for my hampers. So I still have more of this in my store.
Okay.
So I don't really use baskets. I use boxes and more of this wooden stuff. So that's why.
So let's get straight to it.
So now we're having our wrapping nylon.
Okay.
So you can also use other stuff for wrapping, like nets. But I prefer using this because this is very, very small. So here you go. Firstly, can I stand up?
Yeah, you can
Yes, go ahead.
Do your thing. We'll just run commentary. You just do your thing.
You know, the reason some of us don't bother wrapping, gifts
just keep
is
going,
because
don't worry.
when we do, it looks like the challenges of Nigeria has happened to the gifts. So we'd just rather put it in a paper bag and present it. That way it's safe, But there's an art to wrapping gifts. When you see some gifts that have been wrapped and they're so beautiful, they're almost more beautiful than the gift that is being presented. So I believe that's what we're going to learn from you.
Move one, you empty the box, place it on the wrapper.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that is first step.
Okay.
It's DIY.
Then this accuracy machine comes in.
Heavy one.
Yeah, the heavy one.
Okay.
Followed by the. So when you're packing, it has to be very tight.
Yeah.
Don't make it loose because of moving around. So that's that. We have our granular mix. So just a little stuff. Okay. Then the glucose at 10 and the cream. So this is the DIY stuff I don't really want to.
I get the concept now. So this has not affected your budget significantly, and it's also a good gift to present to a loved one.
So you have to take it from the two way around. It kind of works anyhow.
It's angular.
Yes.
Angular.
Okay. Can you see the technique, the angles that he has picked the paper from, and the handwork?
You make sure that they are actually straight.
Because I'm sure this reminds you of Gele tie. Is that the tie or Gele, right?
Well, I'm not a fan for Gele tie. I left my head free.
You pick this same way. Like now, it's not aligned.
So one end is longer than the other end. That's significant.
Just to have to make sure that.
You know what's very interesting? We're about to wrap up the show as well as we wrap this gift. But this is essentially to encourage people to get in that mood. It's Christmas.
They make all the angles correct.
Okay.
That's the look. And you have to tighten it and make sure that they're all looking like.
Okay, it's beginning to make sense.
Exactly.
Like a.
You don't use rope or anything. That's something fancy.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
You can use Ankara cutouts.
Yeah, that's creative.
How's that feel?
You can even use
a direct
if you want to
cutout.
give somebody a tie, you can also use a tie to wrap it. So the person unwraps it and
please don't tie the gifts with my tie.
You can actually use Ankara or a direct cutout.
So the head is not giving.
It's not giving
something. So you just have to just hold it together. You can pick your scissors.
And cut.
Okay.
And just cut it straight.
Then it looks smart. Oh, beautiful.
Okay.
I said there's an art to it.
Thank you so much. Brilliant. Well, I'm sure this is for us, Abby. We must thank you so much. Amazing, amazing. Christmas is coming, so everyone who has been complaining, I don't have what to give. Even with 5,000, can put things together. 3,000, depending on where you live, you can put things together and share a gift with someone. We must thank you, Lamidi Altanel, CEO Sugar Boy Big House. Thank you so much. Thank you for teaching us, and we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Sir.
And well, that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and, of course, your usual company. Sunrise Daily is up on the top of the hour, and Jeffrey Uzama.
We'll be back again tomorrow with another inspiring edition of the program. I am Bukola Koka.
And hey, be a gift to someone today with your smile, with your words. Let's just make other people feel good. I'm Kayode Okikelu. Have a great day ahead.